10 days from now, a deposit lands in millions of Canadian senior bank accounts, and every single year, the same thing happens. The number on the screen doesn't match what people expected, and they have no way to tell whether that's a mistake, a clawback, or exactly what they were supposed to receive. This video exists so that on July 29th, you already know the exact number you should be looking for, and exactly how to verify it in under 2 minutes if something looks off. Here are the numbers themselves, straight from the current federal payment rates. If you're between 65 and 74, your base old age security payment is $751.97. If you're 75 or older, that number jumps to $827.17 because of the automatic 10% increase that kicks in the month after you turn 75. If you also receive the guaranteed income supplement on top of that, your combined monthly deposit from both programs together can run as high as $1,875, depending on your income level and marital status. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to read your specific deposit, how to verify it against your own account in MyServiceCanada before the money even arrives, and what to do immediately if the number doesn't match what you expected. Hello, I'm James Cardewell. For the past 11 years, I've been researching Canadian retirement programs, government policy, and the financial issues that affect seniors. Today, we'll break down what this latest development could mean for you. Before we get into the numbers, I want to say this clearly. These figures are the standard published rates, and your personal deposit could be higher or lower depending on your income, your marital status, and whether you qualify for provincial top-ups on top of the federal amounts. This video gives you the framework to check your own exact number, not a one-size-fits-all answer. This video covers 4 things. First, the exact base rates for OAS by age group and how GIS stacks on top of them. Second, how to log into MyServiceCanada right now and see your personal deposit amount before it even arrives. Third, the specific reasons your number might legitimately differ from these base rates. And fourth, exactly what to do if the deposit that lands on the 29th doesn't match what you expected. Let's start with the base numbers, because these are the foundation everything else builds on. Old age security has 2 tiers based on age. From 65 up to the month before your 75th birthday, the base monthly payment is $751.97. Once you turn 75, the payment automatically increases to $827.17 a month. And this happens without you needing to apply for anything. ServiceCanada adjusts it automatically the month following your birthday. That's roughly a $75 monthly increase, or close to $900 a year, simply for crossing that age threshold. On top of OAS, if your income is low enough, you may also receive the Guaranteed Income Supplement. GIS amounts vary significantly based on your marital status and total household income, which is why there's no single GIS number the way there is for OAS. But when you combine a maximum GIS payment with the base OAS amount, a single low-income senior's combined monthly deposit can reach as high as $1,875. That combined figure is the ceiling, not the average, so don't be alarmed if your own number is lower. It depends entirely on your specific income situation. Meet Eleanor, 73, from St. John, New Brunswick. Every year around this time, Eleanor used to feel a small wave of anxiety leading up to her July deposit because the amount seemed to shift slightly from what she remembered, and she had no reliable way to check it in advance. Last year, she finally sat down and logged into her MyServiceCanada account a week before the deposit date, found the exact breakdown of her OAS and GIS amounts listed separately, and realized the number matching what actually landed in her account 10 days later, down to the cent. That one 5-minute check turned an annual source of stress into a 5-minute task she now does every quarter. So here's exactly how to do what Eleanor did. Go to canada.ca, search for MyServiceCanada account, and log in using your existing credentials or a canada.ca sign-in partner through your bank. Once you're in, navigate to the Old Age Security section, where you'll see your current monthly OAS amount clearly listed. If you also receive GIS, there's a separate section showing your current Guaranteed Income Supplement amount. Add these 2 numbers together, and that combined figure is what you should expect to see land in your account on payment day. This page typically reflects your current rate in real time, meaning if you check it now, ahead of the July 29th deposit, you're seeing the actual number that's about to be paid, not last year's rate or an estimate. Before we get to the variance reasons, I want to walk through one more layer of the MyServiceCanada breakdown that most seniors never scroll down far enough to see. Beneath your current OAS and GIS amounts, there's usually a payment history section showing your last several deposits. This is genuinely useful because it lets you compare this month's expected amount against what you actually received the past few months, which is often a faster way to spot a real change than trying to remember the number from memory. If you see a small, consistent difference month to month, that's usually just a scheduled recalculation working its way through. If you see a sudden, large jump in either direction, that's worth a closer look using the reasons below. It's also worth checking the next payment date field while you're in there, since ServiceCanada publishes the exact deposit date for every month well in advance, and the schedule occasionally shifts by a day or two around weekends and holidays. Confirming the exact date alongside the exact amount means you're never left wondering, on the day after a deposit was supposed to arrive, whether it's simply running a day behind schedule or genuinely missing. Now let's talk about why your specific number might legitimately differ from the base rates I gave you earlier, because there are several real reasons this happens, and none of them mean something is wrong. First, if your net income from the previous tax year was above the OAS Recovery Tax Threshold, currently around $93,000 for individuals, part of your OAS may be clawed back, reducing your monthly deposit below the base rate. This is calculated automatically based on your prior tax return. Second, GIS is recalculated every July based on your income from the year before. So if your income changed, went up from part-time work, or down because a pension ended, your GIS amount for this July's payment onward may be different from what you received last year, even if OAS itself stayed the same. Third, if you have deferred OAS past 65, your base rate is permanently higher than the standard amount, since OAS increases by roughly 0.6% for every month you delay past 65 up to age 70. Fourth, some provinces offer their own top-up supplements for low-income seniors, paid separately from the federal deposit. So your total monthly senior income might include a provincial payment that doesn't show up in the federal OAS and GIS numbers at all and needs to be checked through your specific provincial program instead. Meet Harold, 66, from Red Deer, Alberta, whose OAS deposit last spring was noticeably lower than the base rate he had seen quoted online, and his first instinct was that something had gone wrong with his file. When he checked MyServiceCanada, the account clearly showed a partial clawback applied against his OAS because he had picked up a significant amount of consulting income the previous year that pushed his net income above the recovery tax threshold. Nothing was broken and nothing needed correcting. The number was exactly right once he understood which line on his prior tax return had triggered it. Harold's case is a good example of why checking the actual breakdown, rather than comparing your deposit to a generic published number, is the only reliable way to know whether your amount is correct. Here's the part most people miss entirely, and it's worth flagging clearly because it explains almost every case of a deposit looking wrong when it isn't. The amount you see on July 29th reflects your income situation from your prior year's tax filing, not your current income right now. If your circumstances changed significantly this year, sold a property, started drawing a pension, picked up part-time work, that change will not show up in your GIS amount until the following July's recalculation. So if your July deposit looks unusually high or low compared to what you'd expect based on your current situation, it's very likely reflecting last year's numbers, not an error. There's one more comparison worth making before the deposit lands, and it's specific to this particular payment date. OAS and GIS amounts are adjusted quarterly based on the Consumer Price Index, which means the rate that applies to your July deposit may be slightly different from the rate that applied in April, even if nothing about your personal income changed at all. This is separate from the age-based increase at 75 and separate from any GIS income recalculation. It's simply the cost of living adjustment working in the background every quarter. If you compare this month's deposit to 3 months ago and see a small increase, a few dollars, that's very likely the quarterly indexing doing exactly what it's designed to do, protecting your payment against inflation, not an error in either direction. So here's exactly what to do this week, before the 29th arrives. First, log into MyServiceCanada today and write down your listed OAS and GIS amounts separately, then add them together to get your expected total deposit. Second, compare that number to your bank statement once the deposit actually lands and confirm the two match exactly. Third, if the numbers don't match, don't assume the worst. First, check whether you fall into one of the 4 legitimate variance reasons we just covered: deferred pension timing, income threshold changes, clawback, or a separate provincial payment. Fourth, if after checking all of that, the number still looks wrong, call Service Canada directly rather than waiting for next month's deposit to see if it corrects itself, since payment errors are far easier to fix quickly than after several months have passed. Fifth, set a recurring reminder to check your MyServiceCanada account every quarter, not just once a year, since both your age bracket increase and any income-based recalculations can shift your number more often than people expect. Sixth, if you're within a few months of turning 75, mark that date specifically, since the 10% OAS increase is automatic, but it only applies starting the month after your birthday. So don't expect the higher amount to show up on a July deposit if your birthday falls later in the year. It will arrive with the deposit following your actual birth month instead. Knowing your exact number before the money arrives turns this from a guessing game into a simple verification, and it means you'll spot a genuine error immediately instead of months later when it's harder to correct. One last thing worth mentioning, because it comes up constantly this time of year. If you don't have internet access or aren't comfortable navigating MyServiceCanada, every one of these numbers is also available by phone through the Service Canada automated line, and a live agent can walk you through your specific breakdown if the automated system doesn't answer your question. There's no requirement to use the online portal. It's simply the fastest way to check, but the phone line gives you the exact same information for anyone who prefers speaking to someone directly. Whichever method you use, the goal is the same: know your number before the deposit lands, not after. I also want to address something that comes up every single payment cycle in the comments of videos like this one: the difference between your deposit date and your statement date. Some banks post the funds to your account balance a day earlier than the official payment date, particularly if the official date falls on a weekend, while others hold it until the exact scheduled date. If your deposit hasn't arrived on the 29th itself, check whether the date fell on a weekend this particular month before assuming there's a problem, since Service Canada moves the deposit to the closest preceding business day whenever the scheduled date lands on a Saturday or Sunday. If you know a senior who gets that same small wave of anxiety every payment date, wondering whether their deposit is right, send them this video before the 29th so they can check their own number today instead of waiting to find out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.